Okay, so this is the third section of chapter 3, conditional probability. Usually, when we calculate probabilities, if you can remember what we learned in last lesson, you find the number of outcomes or number of elements in a certain event. You divide it by the total number of elements in the sample space. So what is the sample space? Sample space is the set of all the elements or set of all the observations defined for a certain random experiment. Okay, so we talked about random experiments, and that is those are the experiments where the final outcome is not available until you finish it. Okay, you do not know the results until you finish it, and the result will be one possible outcome among many available outcomes. So all possible outcomes of a given random experiment is called the sample space, and a subset of the sample space we call them an event. So if you want to find the probability of a certain event, the occurrence of a certain event, we calculate it by the number of elements in this, the number of elements, say our event A is A. The probability of A is the number of observations or elements in A divided by number of observations or elements in the sample space. Then what is the probability of the sample space? What is PS? PS is, that is the total probability. Okay, so there's the axiom. What is the total probability? It is always 1 or 100%. Okay, and I hope you can remember the probability. It is never exceeding 1 and it is never negative. It can be 0, but it is never negative. It does not exceed 1. Okay, so if in any calculation you end up with a probability value a negative or a probability value which is greater than 1, that means your calculation is wrong. Somewhere you have made a mistake, so you have to double check it. Okay, so the probability of a certain event is always in between 0 and 1. And what is the complement? How do you find the probability of a complement? Complement is not A. That means everything in S but not in A. So you find it by 1 minus PA. So these are few of the things we learned last time. Also, we learned about the union, intersection, and about the disjoint events, mutually exclusive events, and how to find the probability of a union, and so on. Okay. Right. So we need those information again today when we talk about conditional probability also. Okay. Let's use an example to get the idea about the conditional probability. Okay. Now, if we restrict the sample space, if we restrict our sample space based on a given condition. Okay. So you have a certain condition that you impose on your sample space, and then you calculate the probability for that restricted sample space, not for the whole one, not for the whole sample space, but for that restricted sample space under a certain condition. And if you calculate the probability of a certain event for that restricted sample space, then we call it the conditional probability. Okay, so here's an example. It will be very clear if we look at this example. Now, if you look at this table, what do you see? You see a set of rows and set of columns. Your columns are the city name A, B, and C, 3 cities. And then your rows are the gender. Okay? So your rows contain gender. So this is about set of students. The total number of students in our sample is 400. You can see that, right? There are 400 students. Out of them, 250 male students, 150 female students. So altogether there are 400. And another categorization is according to the city where they came from or where they live. So there are 100 from A, 125 from B, 175 from C. So altogether again this 400. Okay. So you can see the column totals, that is the total of A, which is 100, total of B, 125, total of C, 175. So 100, 125, 175, these are the column totals. Then 250 and 150, these are the row totals. Okay. And the 400, we call it the grand total. Right. So in addition to that, you have another subdivision, right? So out of these 250 males, you can divide these 250 males also according to the city. So there are 50 males from city A, 100 males from city B, another 100 males from city C. So likewise, you see the females also. Okay. Now if you add these 6 cells, okay, these 6 cells, you get 400 again, right? If you add these 6 cells, you get 400 again. Okay, is that clear to all of you? Okay, so if you can represent numbers or figures according to these two variables, these are categorical variables, gender is categorical variable, city is a categorical variable, and you formulate a 2D table like this. So in this table, you have 3 categories for column, 2 categories for gender. Okay, so we call this a 2 by 3 table. Okay, 2 by 3 table, 2 rows and 3 columns. And we call them contingency tables. Okay, so these are called contingency tables. Okay, when you have categorical data, and if you want to find the relationships between 2 categorical variables, you can easily create this contingency table. Now, depending on the number of columns and number of rows you have, the dimension will be different. In this case, the dimension is 2 by 3. Okay. Now let's look at some these figures and let's try to find some probabilities. Okay, so the first one we are going to look at is, if a student is randomly selected, what is the probability that he or she is from city A? Okay, now be careful. If a student is randomly selected, okay, you just pick a student. How many students are there? Altogether 400. So you select a student randomly out of this 400. What is the probability that he or she is from city A? Now, in this case, you are not considering the gender. It is not about males or females. It's about everybody, right? So your whole sample space is there. So how do you write this? This is the probability of A. Okay. So number of observations in A, there are 100 students coming from city A. So we don't care about whether they are males or females. Any student. Okay, there are 100 coming from city A out of 400. So this is the general probability that we have already discussed in last 2 sections. Okay. So the probability of A is 100 out of 400. I guess this is clear to all of you. And here's another one. If a student is randomly selected, again, a student is randomly selected, what is the probability that the student is male? Now, do you consider where they came from, the city of the student? No. Okay. They can be from any city. We don't care. Out of all these students, out of these 400, what is the probability that the student is a male? So let's find that probability male. What is that probability? Can someone give me the answer? Probability that a randomly selected student is a male? What is the answer? You can unmute and speak, okay?
250.
250 out of
400.
Out of 400. Okay, so the probability of selecting a male student is 250 out of 400. Okay, thank you, Manisha. You also gave the correct answer. Now, by random, we mean that all these students have the same chance of being selected. All these 400 students, they have the same chance of being selected. Now, in 1 and 2, we calculate the usual or the general probability. Okay. Now we are move on to the conditional probability. Now we restrict our sample space. How are we going to restrict? If you select male students only, now we restrict our sample to male students only, and we forget about the females. If you select male students only, what is the probability that he is from city A? Okay, can you see the difference now? Now this is not about all students. This is about male students only. Now what is your sample space? How many observations are there in your restricted sample now?
250.
Only 250. Okay, so you have only 250. That is your restricted sample space now, not the 400, because you select out of the male students only. So it's like the female students, you don't touch them, right? So you have the male students. What is the probability that he is from city A? Now how do you write it? Probability that the student is from city A is male. If this person is a male, what is the probability he came from city A? Now what is that probability? How can you find that number? Yes, I got one answer. Now where are you looking at? Now what is your sample space? Your sample space is now males only. This is the sample space. This is your restricted sample space now, according to the condition that the person is male. So how many are there in A? Only 50. Now your probability is 50 out of 250. Now can you see the difference between 1 and 3? Right? See your sample space, it is now restricted to 250. Okay. So how do you write this? This is how we write it, the notation. Probability of A given that you select from males. Okay. So this is how you write the conditional probability. Yes, we got the answer from many others. Thank you. How do you read this? Probability of A given male. This is not the division. This is a straight line. Okay. This is a straight line. Probability A given male. This is how you write this. Probability A given male. Why do you say it is given? Given information. This is the given information for your restriction to the sample space. Okay. So you read the conditional probability as probability of A given male. Okay. Now let's try another one. If you select a student from A only, city A only, what is the probability that the student is a male? How do you write it? Now you know the notation. How do you say it? Selecting a probability, the probability that the student is a male out of those who are from city A only, right? So how do you write it? Yes, I got the answer. How do you write it? The conditional probability. Probability of male given that person is from city A. Now what is our restricted sample? You look at A only, city A only. So those students came from city B and C. We don't care about them. Okay, they were thrown away. We restrict our sample to A only. So how many are there? Only 100. Out of them in A there are 50 from the males. Okay, is this clear to all of you? I guess this is okay. Shall we try another one, the fifth one? Can you find the probability of B given female? B given female. Okay, so what is your restricted sample now? Only females. You look at the given one. See, the given is female. It's given. So you already know your sample is now females only. So look at females only. Okay, so you look at the females only. Right? So how many are from city B? There are 25 out of 150. Right. Yes, I got the 25 from 150. Okay. It's not 125. Okay, it's given is female, not B. Okay. HS006. Don't get confused. Your given is female. So you look at the females total, right? And then you look at how many are from B. Okay, so your restricted sample is 150, right? Okay, try this one. Probability male given C. probability of male given C. Yes, what is the answer? Now the given information is C. Given is C, so your restricted sample space is C. Right, so that is 175. Out of them, how many males? 100. Yeah. So we got the answer. Thanks for those who gave me the answer. 100 out of 75. I guess now it is clear to all of you. Now, if you have the contingency table like this, you can also find the intersection. Okay, you can also find the intersection. Right. So before we move on to the definition, I'll try that also. I'll give you that also. Sorry about the space. I'm writing here and there everywhere. Okay. Now, what do you think? If you find, okay, look at the very first cell, 50. If you find, let's find the probability. If you have a value 50 out of 400, what does that mean? Probability of something, that is the 50 out of 400. Okay, so this 50, I'm talking about 50 in the very first cell. What do you call that category of students? Those are the students who came from city A and also male. Okay, so they are the students who are males and also who are from city A, right? So how do you write it? A intersection male. Can you see that? Now, this is a general probability, okay? So this is a general probability. So you have to divide it by 400, okay? So likewise, can you tell me what is the probability of C intersection female? That means you select a student randomly and that student is a female and from city C. What is that probability? Yes, what is the answer? How do you find that cell? You get the C column, female column where they intersect, you get the number, which is 75 out of 400. Yes, thank you. So you got the idea. See, now you have the whole sample space there, okay? So it is not conditional probability, it is general probability, okay? Right. So now you have the idea about how to find the conditional probabilities, okay? After restricting your sample space, right? Now you don't get a table like this all the time, right? So you need the exact definition of the conditional probability. So here's our definition for this section. If A and B are any two events in a sample space S and probability of event A is not equal to 0, the conditional probability of B given A. Conditional probability of B given A. How do you write it? Probability B given is the straight line A. Okay, so you read this as probability of B given A. How do you find it? You take the intersection of B and A, divide it by the given one. See, divide it by the given one. That is probability of A. You cannot have a division by 0. The answer will be not defined. So that is why you have to have non-zero value for PA, right? Because you cannot have a division by 0. Okay. Now this is the definition of conditional probability. If you want to find the probability of A given B, how do you do that? A given B. Again, the top is the same, A intersection B. Now remember, A intersection and B intersection A, both are same. If you interchange the letters A and B for the intersection, even for the union, nothing will change. Okay, so A intersection B and B intersection A both are same, right? Then you divide by what? PB. It's the given one. Okay, given is B, so you divide by PB. And you should know that PB, it cannot be 0, right? Now, what do you think? Is it same? PB given A and A given B, are they same? No, right? A intersection B and B intersection are same. A union B and B union are same. But B given A and A given B are two different things. Okay, they are not the same. So remember that also very thoroughly, right? Okay, now we have the same example again, the same table again. Okay, now let's try to use the conditional probability, the definition, and see whether we can get the same answer. Okay. Okay, what is the probability that the student is from city B given that the student is a female? Okay, so we are going to use the definition, right? Okay, what is the probability we need? The student is from city B given that student is a female, right? So this is how we write it. Be very, very careful with the wording, okay? The given information is given that the student is female. So you already know the student is a female. If so, what is the probability that she came from city B, right? Now, rather than looking at the table, let's try to use this definition. Now, what is the definition? Probability of B intersection female divided by probability of the given one. What is the probability of given one? Female. Well, we already have these two probabilities. What is the B intersection female? Yes, B, yes, female, where they intersect is 25 out of 400 divided by female. Female is 150 out of 400. So this common denominator, this 400 will cancel out. So you end up with 25 over 150. Okay, 25 over 150. See, we have the same thing in 5. 25 over 150. Right. So it's up to you. You have the option, if you want, you can use the definition, or if the table is available, using the table is sometimes easy. If the table is not available, well, you have the definition. Okay, you can find the intersections, you can find the probability of the given one, and then do the division according to the definition. So you can get it. Okay, let's try another one. Can you find the probability of male given C? Male given C. Let's use the definition. Male and C divided by the given one is P, C. Okay, so let's try. Males are here, C is here, where they intersect you have 100 out of 400 divided by PC is 175 divided by 400. So what is the answer? 100 over 175. Yes. Okay, you have the wrong answer. This your PC. What is the probability of C? 175 over 400. Okay, so it is 100. Okay, given is C, PC is 175. Okay, yeah, I think you got it. Okay, so be careful, right? The given one, the columns and rows don't make the mistake, right? Any question of this one? Do you need the explanation again, or is it okay to all of you? Anybody who need the explanation again? Is this okay? If you want to double check whether A given B and B given A are same or not, okay, you can try it. Okay, let's use the same example. Can you find what is C given male? What is C given male? Numerator is same. C intersection male or male intersection C, both are same, but now you divide by P male. Now what is that? That will be 100 divided by 250, right? See, so C given male is 100 over 250. Male given C is 100 over 175. So you can see the difference. Okay, so male given C is not equal to C given male. Okay, so you cannot take interchange like the union or intersection. Okay, right. So let's try another example. So before we move on to this one, let's try another example. I'm going to give you a certain information. Try to draw the table first, and then you have to find the answers. Okay, very small table. Okay, this is about an animal clinic. They have 100 registered dogs, and another 100 registered cats. Okay. Among the dogs, so there are 75 male dogs, and among cats, there are 65 females. Okay. Now I want these probabilities. What is the probability if you select randomly an animal that it is a cat? What is the probability that the animal is a dog if you randomly select an animal? Right? Next, I need the conditional probability of female given cat and female given dog, and also cat given male. Okay, can you try this one? First, prepare the table, find the totals, right? And then you can find the probabilities. Okay, I'll prepare the table. So check whether you got the same. Maybe you have different columns and rows. That's okay. Yes. So it says among the dogs, there are 75 males. Among the dogs, there are 75 males, so the 25 should be the females. Among the cats, there are 65 females, so the rest should be males, which is 35. 100 and 100, 200. That's the grand total. 75 and 35, 110, 25 and 65, 90. Again, you get the 200. Right. What is the probability of cat? There are 100 cats out of 200. So you can say 50% or 0.5 or 1/2, whatever the way it's okay. Dogs, again, it's the same. Now you need female given cat. Okay. So it's given it is a cat. Out of them, how many females are there? 65 out of 100. Now you need female given dog. There are 100 dogs. Out of them, there are 25 females. Okay. And cat given male. So you look at the males. There are 110 males. Out of them, how many cats? 35 cats. Right? Can you all get these answers? Any different answers? Yeah, let me know if I have made any mistake. Okay. Is this clear to all of you? Okay, right. Now let's try another example using the definitions. Okay. A manufacturer of airplane parts knows from past experience that the probability is 80% or 0.8 that an order will be ready for shipment on time. Okay, so what is that probability? 80% is the probability that the order will be ready for shipment on time. Then the probability 72% is an order will be ready for shipment on time and will also be delivered on time. Okay, now you have another probability. 72% is order will be ready for shipment on time and also it is delivered on time. Now the question is, what is the probability that such an order will be delivered on time given that it was ready for shipment? Now when you read this, can you figure out or can you differentiate what is the conditional probability, what are the other probabilities? You should be able to do that now, right? Whenever you see this word given or if, okay, that means there is a condition on the sample space. You already know some information. Given that it was ready for shipment on time, what is the probability that such an order will be delivered on time given they were ready for shipment on time? Okay. Now let's define these terms or events. Let's say R is the event that order is ready for shipment on time, and D the event that it is delivered on time. Okay. Now you have two probabilities, 0.8 and 0.72. Can you figure out what are these probabilities? What is 80? What is 80% using the letters R and D? Can you tell me what is 80%? This 80% or 0.8, what is it? Probability of what? Anybody? What is 80% or 0.8? It is the probability that the order will be ready for shipment on time. So R is the event that order is ready for shipment on time. So this is probability of R. Now what is probability? This 0.72. What is that probability? That is the probability order will be ready for shipment on time and also be delivered on time. So what is that? And is the intersection. So that is R and D. Okay, can you see that? 80% is PR, 72% is R, intersection D. Now, what is the question? Such an order will be delivered on time given that it was ready for shipment on time. Given that it was ready for shipment. Now, how do you answer this one? You straight away go for the definition. Definition of D given R is intersection divided by the given one, PR. See, you have all the information you need. 0.72 divided by 0.8. Right? So you can get the answer. Okay? This is clear to all of you? Okay, so be careful when you read the context, right? Identify properly the conditional probabilities and others. Okay? All right. Now we look at a few other equations that you can get from the conditional probability. Okay? If A and B are any two events in sample space S and PA is not equal to 0, here's an equation that you can use to find the intersection. Probability of A and B is PA times PB given A. How do you get this? Okay, let's go back to the conditional probability of B given A. What is it? The intersection divided by the given one. Now, if you multiply both sides by PA, what do you get? So cancels. Okay. This A. Okay, so when you multiply both sides by PA, it's like you didn't do anything, or it's like you do the cross multiplication, right? So what is PA intersection B? That is PA times P given A. Okay, so that is exactly what you get. So this is called the multiplication rule. So what was the other rule that we learned for the union? What do you call it? That's what we learned last time. What was that? Can you remember? We had an equation for A union B. What was it? PA plus PB minus their intersection. What is the name of this rule? Anybody who can remember? This is called the addition rule. Okay, this is called the addition rule. Addition is for the union, multiplication is for the intersection. Okay. So how do you get the intersection? The probability of the intersection. This is using the definition of the conditional probability. So in the same way, if you use A given B, A given B is again the intersection. It is A intersection B or B intersection A, both are same. So you divide by the given one. Again, if you cross multiply, what do you get? PA intersection B is okay, PB times PE given B, right? So you have two equations depending on B given A or A given B to find the multiplication. Okay, right. Here's an example. If we randomly select 2 television tubes in succession from a shipment of 250 television tubes, of which 15 are defects, what is the probability that both of them will be defects? Okay. Now, how do you find the answer for this one? Okay, so we assume the equal probability for each of the selection. That means you select them randomly. Okay. So there are 240 television tubes. Just think about some items, 240 items. And you already know there are 15 defects. So what is the probability of defects? Selecting a defect, there are 15 out of 240. Right? Okay. Now what is the question? You are going to select 2 television tubes in succession. What does that mean? You pick one, you look at whether it is defect or not, put it somewhere, you put that away and pick another one. And again, check whether it is defect or not. Now, you have to find the probability that both of them will be defects. Now, how do you find this one? Okay. Now, think about when you pick the first tube, okay, the first item. Okay, so in that shipment, how many are there? There are 240. Now, what is the probability that that selected one is a defect? It's given that there are 15 defects are there. So the probability that the selected item will be a defect is 15 out of 240. Okay. Then what do? You keep it away. And then you are going to pick the next one. When you are going to pick the next one, now what happened to the sample? Do you have all 240? No, because you already picked the one. You already picked the one, so you have only 239 inside the shipment. Okay, and you pick a one, what is the probability that it is a defect? Knowing that the first is also a defect. Why? Because we need both the defects. If you need both of them defects, the first should be also a defect, second should also be a defect. So, if you want to find the probability that the both are defects, you need the first one is a defect and also the second is a defect. For the probability the first is defect is 15 over 240. The second is a defect is, now there are only 239. Since you already picked a defect in the first one, there are only 14 defects remaining. So the probability that the second is also a defect will be 14 out of 239. Now what is the probability that the both will be defects? You apply the multiplication rule, both defects and, right? So how do you write it? Probability first is a defect and second is a defect. How can you get that? Probability that the second is defect and this, I'll write it in the order. Probability that the first is a defect and probability the second is defect, knowing that first is also a defect. Then only you can get both defects. Is that clear to all of you? If you need both defects, the first should also be defect and the second should also be defect, right? So the probability that the first is defect and the second is defect is that probability first is defect multiplied by the second is also defect, knowing that first is defect. Because if the first is not defect one, you can't get both defects, right? So this is a direct use of the conditional probability and the multiplication rule. Okay. Now we have an easier way to get this probability actually. So I'll show you an easy method to understand this type of probabilities. Okay, in another example. Okay, right, and you can find the answer by multiplying. So this is the multiplication rule. Okay, right. Okay, so here's another way to explain the same example, but now using the deck of playing cards. So we use this example, or you already know about the playing cards. We talked about one example last time, I guess. If you think about an ordinary deck of a standard deck of playing cards, we have 52 cards, right? We have 52 cards. You forget about the jokers, right? So what is the formation? 52 cards. You have how many reds? 26 reds. And you have 26 blacks. There are 4 suits. The reds are the hearts, 13 hearts, and 13 diamonds. And then you have the spades, 13, and clubs, 13. So these are the 4 suits, 2 colors. Okay, altogether 52 cards. Now in this example, we don't care about the suits, it's about the color only. Find the probability of randomly drawing 2 aces in succession from an ordinary deck of 52 playing cards. If we sample without replacement and with replacement. Okay, so what are you looking at? Randomly drawing 2 aces. Okay, you know the A, how many aces are there? Heart A, diamond A, spades A, and clubs A. Now, okay, so in this case, we are not worrying about the color, it's about the card. Okay, so altogether there are 52 cards. How many A's? 4 A's. Okay, so you have to find the probability that let's find the probabilities later. First, let's look at this scenario. We are drawing two aces in succession from an ordinary deck of 52 playing cards. Okay. And let's see what about the probability of getting two aces. Okay. Now I'm going to do the A first. Okay. So look at this diagram carefully. This is another way to understand these type of questions. This is called a tree diagram. Hopefully you have learned these diagrams earlier in mathematics somewhere, right? First, let's do the without replacement. Okay. So what are we looking at? We are going to select, or we are going to pick two cards randomly. Okay. In succession, that means one at a time. In succession means one at a time. You are not picking two cards at a time. One at a time means you pick one card, check whether it is A or not. Okay, and then you pick the second card. When you do without replacement, that means you are not going to put the first card back to your deck. But when you do with replacement, you put the card back to the deck. Okay. Anyway, I think it's better if we do the with replacement first. Okay. So let's do the with replacement first. So you can see the difference easily. Okay, with replacement. That means you pick a card, check whether it is A or not, put it back to the deck, shuffle, and then you pick the second card, right? So we are going to draw a tree diagram to explain this scenario, right? So here's my first pick. What are we interested at? Whether it is an A or not. Okay, so whether it is A or not. So I'm going to put A prime to represent not A. So what is the probability of picking an ace? What is the probability of picking an ace? How many cards are there? 52. How many aces are there? 4. Okay. So what is the probability that your card is not an A? That will be 48, because all the other 48 cards are not A's. Is this clear to all of you? Okay. Right. So this is our first pick. There can be two possibilities. Your card can be an ace or it's not an A. The probability that it is an A is 4 out of 52. Not A will be the rest, 48 out of 52. That is our first pick. Now we move on to our second pick. Okay. The second pick, you have two possibilities. If the first pick was an A, or if the first pick was not A. So let's look at the first branch. Okay. First look at the first possibility, that is you picked an A. If you pick an A for the first one, what will happen when you go to the second one, right? But again, it can be an A or not A, right? Now, how do we pick the card? With replacement. You pick the card for the first pick, you had the card, you check whether it is A and B, A or not, and put it back. Now, when you're going to pick the second card, how many cards are there in your deck? How many cards are there in your deck? Remember, you put the card back. So, still you have those 52 cards. Is that clear? So, it is like you are in the initial state. You pick the first card, not whether it is A or not, and put it back with replacement. You put it back to the deck. So, still you have all 52 cards, right? Still you have all 52 cards. So, what is the probability of selecting? I'll say this is A1, okay? Because it is the first card. And let's say this is A2. So, what is the probability that the second card is A? You already know the first is an A. How do you write it? Given A1. So this is A1. Is this clear, the notation? You pick the first card, it is an A, and then you pick the second card. Again, it is an A. How do you write it? Probability that the second is an A, knowing that first is also an A. So what is that probability? Still you have all 52 cards, still you have 4 A's because you replaced the first one. Okay. Now let's move on to the second branch. What is this one? Probability that the second is not A given first is A. What is that probability? Remember, you replace the cards, so it doesn't matter whether it is A or not. Still, you have 52 cards, and there are 48 knots. Okay. Okay. So this is the first one. That is, your first pick was A. Now you move on to the next one, the next possibility. That means your first pick was not an A. Again, when you come to the second pick, it can be an A or it can be not A. Right? Now, what is this probability then? Probability, the second card is A, given that first one was not A. See, can you see the difference? The upper half is given that it was an A. The second half is given that it was not an A. See? Right? So what is that probability? What is the probability that you select an A? Still, you replace the cards, so still you have 52 cards, still there are 4 A's. What about the last one? Last possibility? The second is not an A, given that first was also not an A. What is that? Again, 48 out of 52. Right? So if you prepare your all possibilities, so you can see there are 4 possibilities, right? See, altogether there are 4 paths you can go. A1, A2, A1, not A2, A1, not A1, A2, not A1, not A2. Now, if you multiply along these paths, what do you get? What do you get here? Okay, let's multiply. PA1 times, this is PA1 times PA2 given A1. What is this? Now go back to the definition of the conditional probability and the multiplication rule. What is this? Probability A1 and A2. Can you see that? So what does that mean? This is both cards are A's. What is that probability? 4 over 52 times 4 over 52. So you can find the answer. Okay? Which will be 16 over 52 times 52, you can find it. Right? So I'm not going to write the answer. Anyway, you can find it. What about the next part? What is it? Probability. What is the first one? A1 times probability not A2 given A1. So you multiply. What do you get? A1 and not A2. What does that mean? After you pick the 2 cards, it is first card is an A, but second is not an A. What is that probability? 4 over 52 times 48 over 52. Okay, now I'm not going to write everything. What is this line then? You can find it. Not A1 and A2. Last one, not A1 and not A2. What does that mean? The last possibility is you pick 2 cards, both of them are not A's. What is that probability? 48 over 52 times 48 over 52. Right? So this will be 48 over 52 times 4 over 52. Now, if you find the final answers for these 4, add them together, you will get 1, the total probability, because this is your sample space. Okay? So again, you have 4 possibilities. If you pick a card, pick 2 cards, one at a time with replacement. And these are the probabilities of these 4 possibilities. And you can find them using the multiplication rule. And then if you add these 4 branches, the probabilities in these 4 branches together, you can get A. So double check it. Okay, try this equation, try to find the probabilities. Do not round up until the last answer. At least keep 4 decimal places. Then you will see you get the total probability 1 if you add these 4 probabilities together. Okay. Now this is called a complete tree diagram. When you have a tree diagram like this, you can answer lot of you can find a lot of probabilities related to conditional probability. Okay. Right. Let's go back to the without replacement. Now since you know with replacement now, It's easy. What will happen in with replacement? Now there's going to be a small difference. Okay, it's going to be a small difference. Now let's go back to this with replacement. When you do with replacement, whether your first pick is A is an A card or not, does that affect the second pick, the probability in the second pick? What do you think? Whatever the card you pick in first one or the first pick, will that affect the outcome of the second pick? No, right? Why? Because you replace the card. So when you're going to pick the second one, already you have all 52 cards, all 4 A's. So there's nothing has changed in your sample space. It is like the initial state. So whatever happened in the first pick, it has nothing to do, or it's not affecting at all for the second pick. But when you are not replacing, it's not the case. Okay, so let's check it. Now you know the tree diagram, so I'm going to draw it fast. Okay, here's my first pick. Probability first is an A. Probability, the first is not A. Now another thing, if you look at these branches, if you add the probabilities in these branches, they add up to 1. That is another, see, 4 plus 48 is 52. 52 or 52 is 1. Here also it is 1. Here also it is 1. So in all these places, in these branches, you have the total probability 1. It is maintained. Okay. Right. Okay, so we are in the first pick. What is the probability with the first is an A? 4 out of 52. Not A, 48 out of 52. That is okay. Now remember, we are not replacing. So yes, what will happen when you go to the second pick? Again, it can be an A, it can be not A. Okay, let's write what will be the probability the second is an A, given that first was also an A. Now what do you think? Are you replacing the card? No, you are not replacing the card. And the first pick was an A. See, you are in the first pick A option, right? So the first pick you got an A. And you are not going to put it back. Now, if you are not going to put it back, how many total cards are there in the deck now? Only 51. And how many A's are there? You pick an A in the first pick, you didn't put it back, so there are only remaining 3. So the probability that the second is an A, knowing that first one was also an A, will be 3 out of 51. Is that clear to all of you? Okay, right. The next option, if you got an A in the first pick, what is the probability? The second is an A, given that, second is not A, given that first is A. What about this probability? First was an A, but the second is not. How many not A's are there? Not A cards are there? Have you touched the not A cards? Not yet, because your first pick was an A. Those 48 not A cards are still there, but you have only 51 cards. So the probability that the second is not A, given first one was A, is 48 out of 51. Right? Okay, you are done with the those two options. Now let's go. What will happen if the first pick was not A? Right? So yeah, you looked at what will happen if the first pick was an A. Okay, so that's done. Now forget that. What will happen if the first pick was not A? Now again, the second pick can be an A or not A. So the first branch is probability that the second pick is A, given that first one was not A. Now what is that probability? Okay, so your first pick was not A now. It was not an A, but you are not going to put it back. So you have only 51 cards. How many A's are there? Have you touched them in the first pick? Not yet. You haven't touched any A's in the first pick because the first pick was not an A. So still there are 4 A's. So the second is an A, knowing that first one was not A, will be 4 out of 51. The last one, the second is not A. Now in that first one also not A. Okay. Now how many not A cards are there? You picked one not A. You didn't put it back, so there are only 47 not A's out of 51. Okay. Is this clear to all of you? Right, again, if you look at the total probabilities, 4 and 48, 52 over 52, 1. You have total probability 1 here. Here you have 3 and 48. 48 plus 3 is 51. 51 over 51. You have total probability 1 here, total probability 1 here. Right? Now let's do the multiplication. All 4 probabilities. What is this first one? First is an A. Second is also an A. It is 4 over 52 times 3 over 51. Can you see the difference now with and with replacement? If you do with replacement, it is always 4 over 52 times 4 over 52. If you do this for many picks, say 4 picks, with replacement, all the time you will get 4 over 52, 4 over 52, 4 over 52. But if you do without replacement, each and every time you lose one card from the top and one card from the bottom, from the sample space, right? So you can see the difference now. What is the second one? First is an A, second is not A. What is that probability? 4 over 52 times 48 over 51. Then you have A1 not, A2, 48 over 52, 4 over 51. What is this? Not A1, not A2, 48 over 52, 47 over 51. And you can multiply these values, okay? And if you want to double check, add them together and see whether you can get 1. You should get 1, okay? Right. So for any problem like that, you can draw a tree diagram like this, a complete tree diagram, and then using that, you can easily figure out the answers. Okay. So when you do few other examples, you'll see how to use the tree diagram in other different contexts. Okay. So is it clear to you the difference between with replacement and without replacement? Now, can you see that without replacement, whatever happened in the first peak is straight away affect the second peak, right? So this is very different from with replacement. In with replacement, whatever happened in the first peak, it's not doing anything or it's not doing any harm to the second peak, the probability of the second peak. But when you do without replacement, whatever happened in the first peak completely changed the probability what will happen in the second peak. So you can clearly see that, right? Depending on whether the first is an A or not, probability that the second is an A. See the difference? If the first is an A, the second is A is 3 over 51. But if the second is not A and then the second is an A, it is 4 over 51. So it is very it's different. That means whatever happened in the first peak has an effect on the second peak if you do without replacement. Okay, the reason is that your sample space is now different because you do not put the card back. Okay, is this clear to all of you? The difference between with replacement and without replacement? Okay, right. Okay, so with that, we come to something called the independent events, right? The independent events. So with replacement and without replacement, I can explain the independent events very easily. Okay, so what do you mean by independent? When you have something or a person independent, what does that mean? Independent means it's not depending on any other person, right? Something like that. It's like, so if I say two independent events, so these are like two events who do not know each other at all. They do not know. It's like two people who do not know at all. They haven't met, never met in their whole life. So whatever the one person is doing, it's not going to affect the other person. They do not know each other. Okay. But if you what do you think about two very best friends? Okay. Two very best friends. So if one says, okay, let's go and have a tea, the other will also go, right? So the probability of a certain thing that they are going to do will depend on the other person's action, right? So they are like non-independent events or the dependent events, right? So the dependent events, so these dependent events are like two best friends. One says, okay, let's cut the class today. Other one also says, oh yes, right? So they are dependent. So whatever happens to one friend, it will affect the other friend, right? So those are dependent events. Now, if you look at with and without replacement, which case is the independent and which case is the dependent? What do you say? Two independent event is with replacement or without replacement? Yes. Independent events, is it with replacement or without replacement? With replacement is independent, yes. With replacement is independent. So I think you have understood the concept. If you do with replacement, they are independent event. Why? Whatever happened in the first peak does not affect the second peak. So it's like they don't know each other. On the other hand, dependent events are without replacement. Why? Whatever happened in the first peak, it will straight away affect the second peak. So the second peak depends on the first peak. Okay, the probability of the second peak depends on the outcome of the first peak. So they are dependent events, right? So the with replacements are without replacements are dependent events. Okay. Now you understand the concept about independent events. So if you put this idea into probability, okay, if we say two events A and B, two events A and B are independent if the occurrence or non-occurrence of either one does not affect the probability of the occurrence of the other, right? So if you think two events A and B, we say they are independent if the occurrence of one event does not affect the probability of the occurrence of the other event. Now, can one of you give me a different example for independent events? Independent event. One more example for independent event. Think about some random experiments we talked about in our previous lessons. Independent events. What do you think about tossing a coin twice? What do you think? You toss a coin. Okay, you toss the first one. What will be the outcome? It will be head or a tail. Okay, you do not know until you toss it. These are random experiments. So you toss the coin and look at what happens, the face up, whether it is head or tail. Then you toss it again. When you toss for the second time, does the coin think, okay, I gave a head in the first toss, so I'm going to give a tail in the second toss? Will that happen? No, right? The coin cannot do something like that. The coin does not, has any control on that. Whatever happened in the first toss, head or a tail, there's nothing to do with whether you get head or a tail on the second toss. So these are independent events. These are called the independent tosses. Why? The probability of getting head or tail for the second toss, it does not depend on whether you got a head or a tail in the first toss. Okay, we do not know what will happen. So they are completely independent from each other. Okay. Right. So we say that symbolically two events are independent. We write it like this. A is independent from B. So this is the symbol. Okay. And then you can find this simply by multiplying their probabilities only if they are independent. Okay. So this is the multiplication rule when they are independent. Now, why do we get this? Right. So here's the definition. We'll see how we can get that. Right. So the definition is two events A and B are independent if and only if. What is the meaning of if and only if? Because it is true both ways. Okay, what happens? The probability of A intersection B is probability of A times probability of B. Also, if this equation is satisfied, then A and B are independent. So that is the both directions, this way and the other way, if and only if. If A and B are independent, this equation will be satisfied. If this equation is true, A and B are independent. So it's both ways true. Now, how do we get this? Let's try to explain this one, okay, using the conditional probability. Okay. Now, if A and B are independent, what do you think about the probability of B given A? What do you think about this context? If A and B are independent, B given A, the given information of A, will that help? If they are independent, A and B are like two people, they do not know each other. So whatever the given information on A will not be used by B. So this is simply PB. That means you can ignore A. Why? They are independent. Whatever happened with A, the given information are useless. Given information are useless. They are not useful to A, to B. Why? They are independent. It doesn't matter whatever happened to A. So if A and B are independent, the given information A, it is useless. So PB given A is same as PB. In the same manner, for A given B, if A and B are independent, again, whatever happened in B, it's not going to do anything to A. So the given information on B is useless to A. Okay. So therefore, this is simply PA. So you can forget about what happened with B. They are independent. It doesn't matter. Right? So therefore, can you remember the multiplication rule? What was A given B? PA times PB given A. Now, what will happen when A and B are independent? What will happen to B given A? It is simply PB. See? So you get A intersection B is their multiplication. So that is how you got this definition. Right? So you have the multiplication rule for just in case in general, okay, using the conditional probability. If the events are independent, your conditional probability, the given information will be useless. So the B given A becomes just B, A given B becomes just A, and your multiplication rule becomes this one, multiplication of A and B. Now there's something you should remember. Never, ever, ever assume independency. This is something you should remember very carefully. You never assume independency unless it is given in the text. That means you cannot use this equation if you do not know whether A and B are independent. Okay, so again, the definition, this A and B are independent. This equation, okay, I'll put a red star. Never use if you do not know whether A and B are independent or not. Only if it is given, or only if you have proved that A and B are independent, then only you can use this equation, this multiplication rule. Otherwise, you have to go for the original rule, this one. Okay, otherwise you have to go this one, because if A and B are independent, automatically this conditional probability will be PB, and you will automatically get this one, this definition. Okay, so if they are independent, in your multiplication rule, the conditional probability will automatically become PB, and you will get this red star equation. Okay, but if you do not know whether they are independent or not, never use this red star equation. You have to go for the original one. Okay, so never ever assume independency. If you have to calculate the probability of A intersection B, never use this multiplication PA times PB unless you know for sure A and B are independent, or it is given, or it is stated in the question. Is that clear to all of you? Again, you never assume independency. Only if it is given in the question or context, or you have already proved that they are independent, then only use this red star equation. Else, you have to go with this blue star equation. Okay? Why? The blue star will be the red star equation automatically if A and B are independent. So you don't have to worry. Okay? Right. Now, if you want to check whether two events are independent or not, how do you check it? Okay, I will go back to here. Right. If you want to check if A and B are independent or not, you have three possibilities. Right. First is you check whether the conditional probability A given B is PA. You check whether this is true. If this is true, then A and B are independent. Or you can check whether B given A is same as PB. If this is true, again, A and B are independent. Or else you can check that red star equation. You can check whether this equation is true. If also A and B are independent. That means you find A intersection B, you find PA separately, you find PB separately, multiply them together and check whether left-hand side and right-hand side are equal or not. If that is true, that means A and B are independent. So you can use either of these three, because if one is correct, the other two are automatically correct. Okay, you don't have to check all three. Okay, if one is true, the other two will be automatically true, right? So these three you can use if you want to test whether two events are independent or not. Okay, right. So this is the next topic, the total probability and the Bayes theorem. I will omit the theoretical part, but you can read it and understand it. But I'll explain it using this small example. Okay. Those who have done mathematics, do we have anybody who have done mathematics for A levels? No, right? If so, you have already known the total probability and the rule of total probability and Bayes theorem. If not, that's fine. Okay, so we are going to learn it here. The rule of total probability is if you can subdivide your events into categories and then you combine them together, you get the total probability 1, right? So you already know this total probability. Anyway, when you have subdivisions, it's different that when you explain it, right? Now let's look at this example. The completion of a construction job may be delayed because of a strike. The probabilities are 60% that there will be a strike and 85% that the construction job will be completed on time if there is no strike. Okay, now remember, now look at carefully. There are conditional probabilities and there are general probabilities. Okay. And then it says, and 0.35 that the construction job will be completed on time if there is a strike. Okay, let's go back again. The probabilities are 60% that there will be a strike. So that is something. So let's write it. Probability that there will be a strike is what? 60% or 0.6. So let's leave it there. Then it says 85% that the construction job will be completed on time if there is no strike. If there is no strike, that means you know that there is no strike. So that is the given one. That is the conditional one. And it says 35% that the construction job will be completed if there is a strike. So that is the other conditional probability. Okay. So let's try to give some names to these events. A is the construction job will be completed on time. So PB is there will be a strike. Right. Now what do we have? So we have the probability 60% that there will be a strike. PB is 60%. Now what is 0.85 and 0.35? What are they? Let's try to write them in the probability notation. 0.85 and 0.35. What is 0.85? Let's go back and read it. The construction job will be completed on time. That is the event A. Construction job will be completed on time is event A. If there is no strike. So a strike is B, that is not B, construction job is completed. A given not B is 0.85. Okay. Then it is 0.35, the construction job will be completed on time given there is a strike, that is given B. What is that? 0.35. Okay. So the completion of the job is this circle A. Can you see the circle A? Completion of the job on time is this circle A. It can be completed whether there is a strike or not, right? Whether there will be a strike or not, the job will be anyway completed. So what is the probability that it will be completed if there is a strike? That is 0.35. What is the probability that it will be completed there is no strike? 0.85. Can you see that? So our B, the rectangle, is there's a strike. Now what is PB? Is 0.6. Okay. So PB is 0.6. And you have another event A. So the completion or the probability of event A depends on whatever happens to B, whether B or not B. See, you have two probabilities, 0.35 and 0.85. Now, what do you want to find? What is the probability that the construction job will be completed on time? You have to find PA. How do you find PA? Yes, that means job will be completed, okay, and there is a strike, or job will be completed whether there is no strike. These are the two possibilities. In either case, the job will be completed. Now let's use the multiplication rule. How do you find PA intersection B? That is PB times P A given B plus P not B times P A given not B. So this is called the law of the total probability. Can you find it now? Can you find this one? We have all the information. What is PB? 0.6. What is PA given B? 0.35. What is P not B? If PB is 0.6, what is its complement? 1 minus 0.6, which is 0.4. And A not B is 0.85. So if you add them together, you can get the probability of A. Okay. Now I'll show you how to do the same thing using the tree diagram. Okay, how to do the same thing using the tree diagram. Right. So what are the two events? There will be a strike or not. The construction job will be completed on time or not. Okay. Now look at this carefully. Right. So I'm going to draw the tree diagram. I hope I have enough space. So first is there will be a strike. So we have PB and not PB. That means strike or no strike. What is the strike? 60%. No strike, 1 minus 6, 0.6, 0.4. Now what do you have? Probability that the job will be done given that there is a strike. What is it? 0.35. This branch is probability the job will not be done given there is a strike. Well, we'll find that later. What is the next branch? Probability that the job will be done on time given there was no strike. We know that probability 0.85. Probability that job will be not done given there's no strike. How do you find this one? If you can remember, the total probability should be 1 in each branch. If this is 0.35, the rest should be 0.65. So 0.35, 0.65, total probability 1. If this is 0.85, this should be 0.15. Now you have 1 here, right? Now if you multiply along this path, what do you get? What do you get? You get probability B and A. Can you remember? Okay, if you multiply PB times PA given B, that is PB and A. Multiplication rule. What is this? B and not A. This one, not B and A. This is not B and not A. If you multiply along these paths, you can get the probabilities. Now, what we want is PA, right? What we want is PA. So what you have to do is in these 4 possibilities, pick up the probabilities where you see A. See, this is A. This is not A. No, this is A. So you pick this one. This is not A. So you don't get it. So what are the probabilities you need? You need A intersection B, the first one, plus the third one, A intersection not B. Remember, you can interchange the letters, right? See, this is the same thing we got from the law of total probability. So if you can't remember the total probability, no matter, you draw the tree diagram and get it straight away. So, and how do you find PA intersection B? You multiply along this path. What is the path? 0.6 times 0.35. See, you have the same answer. Plus, the third part is what? The third part, 0.4 times 0.85. See, so you get the same answer, right? So you don't have to memorize the total probability. You can draw the tree diagram straight away and get the answer. Okay. So I guess this is clear to you. The only thing is you have to be careful where to put the probabilities correctly, especially the conditional probabilities. Okay. Any question about this one? Let's do another example and see whether you can, okay, clarify it. Okay. So we come to the base here. Okay. Forget about this square for a while, the diagram for a while, right? Let's try to do this example using the tree diagram. Okay. The member of a consultant firm rent cars from 3 rental agencies. 60% from agency 1, 30 from agency 2, and 10 from agency 3. Okay. So that is one set of information. Now you come to the next set. If 9% of the cars from agency 1 need tune-up. Now you have the conditional probability. If. Okay, if 9% of the cars from agency 1 need tune-up, 20% of cars from agency 2 need tune-up, and 6% of the cars from agency 3 need tune-up, you have to find the probability that a rental car delivered to the firm will need a tune-up. Okay, I'll give you some time to think about this one and see whether you can come up with the tree diagram for this scenario. There are two levels. What are they? The car needs tune-up and the car came from a certain rental agency. Right? In the previous example, the two levels are, first level is there is a strike. The second is depending on the strike, whether the job was completed or not. So in this case also you have a similar formation. Okay. So read this carefully and see whether you can formulate the tree diagram for this scenario. Can you still see the screen, the question? Okay, shall we try it now? Okay, so I'll draw the tree diagram. You can follow me and check whether you have got the same thing. Okay, the first thing you have to figure out what is the first level. So there are two events that we are talking about. One is you rent in the car from a certain agency, and the other one is whether you need a tune-up or not. Okay, whether you need a tune-up or not, or selecting the car from the agency. Now, what is the depending event here? The depending event is needing the tune-up. Depending on the agency, the probability of tune-up is different, right? From agency 1, the probability of need a tune-up is 9%. If the car is from agency 2, the need of tune-up is probability is 20%, and so on. So, the dependent event is the need up. Therefore, the first level should be the selecting the car, selecting the agency. Depending on the agency, the probability of tune-up will be different. Now we have 3 agencies, so they are using the B1, B2, and B3. So those are the 3 agencies. Okay. What is the probability of selecting agency 1? 60%. What is the probability of selecting agency 2? 30%. And agency 3? 10%. See, 0.6, 0.3, 0.1, you get the total probability 1. Okay. Now you move to the next one, that is the tune-up. Right. What is the first branch? It says 9% of the cars from agency 1 need tune-up. So here's agency 1, B1. Needing a tune-up is A. Probability of needing a tune-up given B1, what is that probability? 9%, 0.09. So what is the other branch? No need to tune up. So A, prime or not A. If it is from agency 1. What is its probability? 1 minus 0.09 is 0.91. So altogether you get the total probability 1. Now let's fill the rest. Probability of needing a tune-up given you have the second agency. What is it? 20% of the cars from agency 2 need tune-up. 20%. So what is no need to tune-up then? It is 80%. In the last agency, 6% of the cars from agency 3 need tune-up. So the last one, probability of needing a tune-up given that the car was from the third agency, that is 6%. So what is no need to tune-up? The rest. 1 minus 0.06 is 0.94. Okay. What is the question? Now let's go back to the question. What is the probability that a rental car delivered to the firm will need a tune-up? Just PA. You need PA. So what are the branches where you see A? This one, so the first, third, and the fifth. So how do you find it? Multiply these parts. If you want, you can fill all 6 parts and double check whether when you add the total probability is 1, or if not, you can just use the parts that you need. You need PA. So how does that come? PA comes A and B1, A and B2, A and B3. What does that mean? The probability that the car needs the tune-up will be when the car is from B1, or it can be from B2, or when it is from B3. So you have to select all 3 probabilities and add them together. Now let's find these 3 probabilities. It is easy because you have the tree diagram. A intersection B1 plus A intersection B2 plus A intersection B3. Okay, so what is A intersection B1? The first part, 0.6 times 0.09 plus the third one is the next one, 0.3 times 0.20. Then you have the fifth part, which is 0.1 times 0.06. So multiply these 3 values, multiply them together and then add them together. You can get the probability of A, or probability that the car needs a tune-up. This is clear to all of you now. Okay. Can someone give me the answers for these three probabilities and then the final one also? Point 1, 2. Did I make a mistake? Point 1, 2. Okay. Oops. Where did I make a mistake? Finally, point 1, 2. Okay, I guess that's correct. This is 0.06. Right, so we get 0.12. Okay. So it seems like it's clear to all of you. Anybody who need explanation again, please let me know. Okay. Now, what is the probability that the car does not need tuna? How do you find this one? You have two ways to do that, longer way and the shorter way. Who can give me the answer for P, not A? What is P, not A? Okay, I have 0.88. How do you get that? This is the complement. So you do 1 minus PA. So you get 0.88. Or if you want to do the harder way, P not A will be from the rest 3. See, this is not A and B1. Not A and B2. Not A and B3. So if you multiply these 3 and then add together, you get 0.88. And so the total probability 1. Right? Okay. Now from this one, I'll explain the Bayes theorem also because it is easy now. You all have the understanding also. Okay. Now if you look at the second level, you see all these probabilities, the conditional probabilities are given B, given B1, B2 or B3. But if you need probability that the car came, what is the probability that the car came from first agency given that it needed tuna? Now that is the other way around. B1 given A. Do you see that in your diagram? Do you see B1 given A? No, what you have is A given B1. That is different. How do you find B1 given A? Now you have to use the conditional probability. What is it? B1 and A divided by PA. Do you have these values? Let's check. Do you have B1 and A, the intersection? Yes, see, the very first one, 0.054. Do you have PA? Yes, you already found it, 0.12. So you can find the other way around also. Now this is called the Bayes theorem. This is actually the Bayes theorem. In Bayes theorem, you get PB1 given A divided by all the other intersections. So simply this is same as P1 given A divided by, you get PA by how? P1 B1, PA and B2, PA and B3. So this is PA, right? So this is actually the Bayes theorem, but we have already found the denominator PA, so you can straight away use it. Not only that, if you want to find PB3 given, say not A now, how do you find it? Apply the conditional probability definition. B3 and A prime, it is there. See, last one. It is there in your tree diagram. Okay, so you have to find it. It is 0.1 times 0.94. 0.1 times 0.94. You divide it by P not A, which is 0.88. Right? So that is again the Bayes theorem, where PA prime, you get it from what? By adding the second, fourth, and sixth one. Right? So you don't have to worry about these names or the equations. If you know how to formulate the tree diagram and if you can answer questions like this, that's all I expect. Right? So actually you have automatically used Bayes theorem and total probability law when you prepare the tree diagram and calculate these probabilities. Okay. So there's no need to go or understand the theory or proof. We don't expect it from you. But if you can get this tree diagram correctly and get the probabilities, that's enough. Okay. Any question from this example? Conditional probability. Now, what do you think? The car need a tune-up and selecting the car from a certain agency. Are these events independent or not? Are these events independent or not? Well, you have three equations that you can check. Well, let's try that. R, A, and let's say, okay, so here's something extra. R, A, and let's say B1, independent. How do you check? Check whether PA given B1 equals PA. Can you remember the three equations? If they are independent, the given information of B1, it is useless. Okay, so let's check it. The left-hand side is A given B1. What is A given B1? 0.09. What is PA? You found it. 0.12. Are they equal? No. So what does that mean? A and B are not independent. Okay? Or if you want, you can try multiplication rule. You check whether this is correct. You don't have to do both, right? One is enough. Just to show you. What is A intersection B1? It's there in your tree diagram. 0.054. What is PA? 0.12. What is PB1? 0.6. Yes, PB1, 0.6. Now find 0.12 and 0.6. 0.12 times 0.6. Can you get 0.5054? No, you won't get it. Right? So A and B are not independent. Right? Okay. Any other question from this example? Yes. Okay. Right. Now, shall we stop for today then? So that is about the conditional probability. Okay. So we talked about the definitions, the contingency tables, the independent events and everything. So you have the Bayes theorem and the law of total probability. Just look at them. And there are some other examples that you can do. Right? 2 more examples. Okay, so those will be your assignments for chapter 3. Okay. So I will upload this document for you. In the last 2 pages, you have 2 examples. The first is about the pollutants and emissions. So try that one. And the next example is about the supermarket survey. Okay. See whether you can do these 2 examples. Okay. So that will be your assignment. I will upload it to the LMS. Okay. The next day, let's talk about sensitivity and specificity, because that is something very useful in medical field, and you will be using a lot, which contains some knowledge about or requires some knowledge about conditional probability. Okay. Right. So if we don't have any other question, I'll wrap up for today. So again, your assignment is these 2 examples at the end of your document about the the pollutant test and about the supermarket satisfaction survey. Right. So again, I'll upload them to your LMS as an assignment. You will have 1 week to complete it and submit it. Right. And the next week, let's look at the sensitivity and specificity. And from that, we can finish chapter 3. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or contact me. Okay. So if you don't have any other question, I'm going to finish up for today. Thank you very much for joining, and hope you all have a safe week.